Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP face of the party build in Baldur's Gate 3 focused on getting as much unique dialogue as possible. This is going to be based on which subclasses and classes get the most unique dialogue tags, and the answer may surprise you, but it is the Berserker Barbarian, also Paladin and the Bard, and I actually have a lot of fun with this combination because there's some very interesting synergies here. Now, you may think the Barbarian, they rage, they can't actually spellcast, and you're right, but we can actually Divine Smite when we're raging, and even better, by throwing in the Bard, we can get slashing flourishes so that we're able to Divine Smite 2 targets at once while we're raging. This build is honestly pretty powerful. Now, I'd honestly recommend starting off as a Barbarian. This gives you Constitution saving throw proficiency, so if there is a concentration you want to hold, you can get that. But if you wanted to get heavy armor, starting with the Paladin will give you also Wisdom saving throw proficiency, but also this is the way to get heavy armor. Now, I actually think that the best choice is to go with the Bard at the start, because we're actually going to take more levels into the Bard. It gives this build so much more, and the Bard is honestly very strong, so that's where we're starting. We get to take cantrips here now. Mage Hand is great because you can pop this up, throw healing potions with it while we're raging. Vicious Mockery is just funny and great to have. However, we're not going to be spellcasting a whole lot because we're going to end up raging. This is why Friends is great for face of the party. Advantage on charisma checks. If you're on tactician or honor mode, just be mindful if you use this spell after 10 turns when it wears off, the target may aggro onto you, so just get out of the area. We'll also take for spells, things that we likely won't be using, but in the early game, Thunderwave's good for the pushback, Healing Word for a ranged heal, Dissonant Whispers, and then we can also go with Long Strider because we can use that before we end up raging. Now, this is going to be a build that there's a couple ways we can go about doing this. I do think Dexterity base ends up being the best. This gives us the most amount of overall health and armor class. 16 Charisma, that's going to give us a bit of attack rolls. You could Strength base this build or use a Strength Potion. Those are two other options. I think with Dexterity based weapons, there's things like the Fowler Aloof Sword, which we can get at the very start of the game, or the Knife of the Undermountain King. Those are two weapons that can carry you to the end game that are Dexterity based. You can put those points from Dex into Constitution instead if you prefer. And take your skill proficiencies in the dialogue. Those are the bottom 4 there, with Persuasion being the most important. Level 2 gives us Jack of all trades, adding half proficiency bonus and an extra short rest, which is amazing. We also then get to take another spell here. Now, the big thing with this face of the party build is that we're going to get a massive amount of dialogue. It'd be best to add in all the different subclasses early on so you get to witness them all early, but that does dilute the build power quite a bit. But I'm going to show you here, I guess, a way to get that working together. Now, you want to go with the College of Swords here. Now, I do want to quickly mention I do have a College of Winterspirit Bard here that I made. It's a subclass mod. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend checking it out. But with the College of Sword, our big thing here is the slashing flourish, allowing us to smite 2 targets at once. And also we can do a range attack at 2 targets at the same time. With the Titan String Bow in the early game, that's going to be the best damage possible. We also can take a fighting style here, with 2 weapon fighting being great if you want to use obviously 2 weapons. Otherwise, you're going to go with the dueling feat here for the increased damage on our weapon attacks. We also get to prepare another spell, with Hold Person being our top priority. We're not going to be using this when we're raging, but we still have a very powerful option if we're not raging, or if we get put out of our rage, we can always do that. Level 4 gives us another choice. I think if we want to get the most dialogue rolls, this is the time to throw in the Barbarian here. This also then will give us the ability to get Constitution modifier added to our armor class, so high Constitution would reign out supreme here. And alternatively, you could take those points in Charisma and go 16 Constitution, 16 Dexterity, and 14 Charisma. I just found this worked a little bit better in the late game. And we're doing this just so that we can get the dialogue here. Now, obviously, delaying your extra attack at level 6 is not priority, not great, but you can also see here, even without taking the Barbarian subclass, just without the Berserker, it's the 3rd most used dialogue, with Berserker being the top one. So we can even just take a single level of the Barbarian there. And if you want to, the Paladin gets their subclass at level 1, so you can literally just go ahead here. I would recommend the Oath of Vengeance, although if you really want to get technical, the Oathbreaker has the most dialogue, with Vengeance falling just shortly behind it. I like the Vengeance a lot. I think it's the strongest subclass here. So we're going to take that, but you could alternatively go Oathbreaker if you prefer. Now, at this point, I think it's best to, we get our Divine Smites at level 2 Paladin, but this is tricky because we're level 5 without an extra attack, and our teammates are doing a lot more damage. So I guess the one way that we can counteract that is by taking a single level of the Paladin so that we can do slashing flourishes on 2 targets. And we do have a decent spell casting level, so we can upcast and do higher damage than normal Paladin would do, minus the extra attacks. But we can attack 2 targets at one time. So we also get a fighting style with defense being nice to give ourselves another +1 armor class. However, you would want to take maybe great weapon fighting if you want to use a 2-handed weapon, and this doesn't work if we're using the unarmored defense from the Barbarian, so that's something to keep in mind. I would recommend grabbing Command as our spell there. The rest of them don't really matter. You can't actually use these smites when we're in our rage, but you can use Divine Smite. And I really like to stay here to get the Vow of Enmity, because we can apply this onto ourselves for advantage on all attack rolls for 10 turns, which is absurd. But we want that extra attack, so I'm going to add in the Barbarian, or the Bard again. We're going to take Minor Illusion so that we can group enemies together and pull them away from certain areas. Now, if you're the face of the party, Enhanced Ability Charisma is extremely useful for the advantage on Charisma checks. I'm going to go with that because when we're raging, we're not able to spell cast, but we're not going to rage when we're going to be using a spell like this. If you really want to, you could take any of the other options. I just think Enhanced Ability ends up being great. We also don't mind taking the Alert feat for the +5 to initiative. If we can go first in combat and Divine Smite a couple targets, that is really good. We then get our Bardic Inspiration on back on short rest here, and Glyph of Warding, which we can set down ahead of time and actually do a bit of damage with. It's like a short range fireball, but what's great about this is we can always cast that ahead of time if you know you want to rage. Level 6 gives us that extra attack there, and we get to take one more spell. I like Plant Growth. This doesn't require concentration, and it's crowd control. Fear is another option to make enemies drop their weapons, but I like the spells that don't require us to do anything else with them, because this just makes this build a lot stronger, because we're basically going to be using our spell slots on Divine Smites. At this point, I do think taking the Vow of Enmity is amazing. Again, advantage on all attack rolls. Apply it on yourself. It makes it seem like you want to apply it on an enemy. Apply it on yourself. It gives you advantage on all those attack rolls. And we'll leave the following as such. We're not able to do a lot of spell casting, so we're going to ignore that for the most part. After this, I think it's best to stop at the Paladin there and go into the Barbarian here. This gives us Danger Sense and the Reckless attacks. You could alternatively add in the Berserker Barbarian a little bit earlier, but we do get our subclass at this level with Frenzy, which is nice. This gives us, it provides weapon attacks, so we can do an Enraged Throw. What's nice about this is it gives us a bonus action attack, so we can attack, and attack another time, and pair that with Divine Smite. So very solid combination. I also just want to quickly, even though they don't have as much dialogue as the Berserker, the Wild Heart with the Bear Heart gives you resistance to all damage types except for Psychic. So you could be pretty strong that way. We're still going to go with the Berserker just to maximize our dialogue. And for gear, now there's a lot of really good options. The best part is we can add our Constitution modifier to our armor class. This is nice because we can, with the Amulet of Greater Health, get a +6. Insane, and +3 for our dexterity. I also have the Haste Helmet on here. This is going to give us momentum for 3 turns. This is an early game item. Giving you extra movement speed is really important when we're basically just trying to get up and smite as many people as possible. Scabby Pugilist Circle will give us additional 2 points of damage against 2 or more foes when we're attacking, which is really nice as well. And you could also go with like the Mask of Soul Perception in the late game if you wanted to. I want to leave the Haste Helmet on for the extra movement speed. Cloak Protection, better defense, really whatever you got. Now you could use the Cat's Grace in the early game. That's another option. Even this Protectee Sparks Wall if you're focusing on just the concentrations on the Bard side of things there. As we proceed to the late game, there's a few options that work well, but if we want to stick with clothing, the Vest of Soul Rejuvenation is great because along with giving us a +2 armor class, if an attacker attacks us and misses, we get a reaction attack, and it's an unarmed attack. So what's great about unarmed attacks is actually we can use a strength potion to maximize the damage that we're going to deal, and then we can do some silly stuff with this. So I like the Vest of Soul Rejuvenation, but there's like the Cat's Grace in the early game. I have the Hellas Gloves on for additional damage. You could also use the Dark Justiciar Gauntlets for additional damage. And if you're in the late game, Crater Flesh Gloves will be the best for additional, it says 1d6, it's actually 2d6 force damage because it's a crit. Crazy damage. And I got the Disintegrating Nightwalkers so that we can't be slipped, can't be webbed, and we can Misty Step our way around. You don't have to roll with these, even things like the Helldusk Boots, kind of the better version of this. And also you could go with the Boots Evasive Shoes here for just a little bit better armor class. I'm gonna throw in the Helldusk Boots though, because it does give us a little extra, ignoring the difficult terrain, which lets us not have to use the Ring of Free Action. I really like this ring. It lets us basically run around unimpeded, but since we got crit bonuses, we may as well take the crit rings to further enhance that even crazier. I also got the Caustic Band on for initial 2 points of acid damage. The Shadow Cloak ring could be good if you want to go for more of a stealth-based build. You could also go with medium armor, actually, and then throw on the Steel Watcher helmet and go into darkness if you want to be like a Shadow Barbarian Paladin. I also have the Titan String Bow. If we're using a strength potion, that's going to give us extra damage on it, which is amazing. Although you could go with the Hell Rider Longbow for the +2 to initiative so that we always go first. I have Fowler Luvon as my weapon. I really like this with the Shrieking Song, but again, that's more so in the early game. We also have things like the Knife of the Undermounted King, which are amazing later on in the game. If you really want to be crazy, Shadow Blade is an option. There's a ring that gives a Shadow Blade, so you could use that. And since we're using a strength potion, you could go with Nyrol, and we could have thrown on like Tavern Brawler to really maximize that damage. But yeah, not everyone loves a throwing build. They're also a little bit clunky, so I don't always enjoy using them. Two-handed weapons, if you got the like the Sword of Chaos here, this is an incredible choice. And critical hit focus, Sword of Life Stealing is also amazing. Light finesse weapon that you can use. I'm going to throw on the Knife of the Underbound King, though. I just find this to be a very powerful weapon. And this build does not seem like it would work very well, but it does. Vow of Enmity, always apply it on yourself first. The crazy part again about this is we have advantage on any attack roll that we make, so we're pretty strong, safe to say. So we want to rage. This is kind of the whole point. That's why I mentioned using Vow of Enmity if you know you're getting into a fight, because they both use your bonus action. They last for 10 turns, so you can have one and the other if we just use them in the correct order. Now, slashing flourishes is our big thing, but you want to go into your reactions here and make sure that you have your divine smites checked off so that you do use them as a reaction. This is important so that we don't end up missing out on using them, and we want to have both those there checked. So basically, what you're going to do is find a group of targets. I'm actually going to eat this opportunity attack because I want to try and hit these two targets here. This is fine. We're raging. We take half physical damage. What we want to do is get this slashing flourish here right in range. These are two targets that are now going to get hit with our slashing flourish. I don't think I need to roll the crit on that. It didn't. It was a free crit. So that took out one target, and this one's going to be taken out. This one still has 36 health, so we can actually use this to kind of reverse engineer what level spell slot we need to use to take out that target, and we got it. Perfect. Booyah. So yeah, that's basically what we want to be doing with this, is getting into a position where we can hit two targets at a time with our slashing flourish, because it does so much damage, and you can always roll a free crit here if you ever need it, and it can actually crit two targets for one free application, which saves you from having to use up your spell slots. So yeah, that is kind of nice. So we already got two of those down. The other thing is we got a slashing flourish range. If you want to do a ranged weapon attack, again, Titan string bow, two of those, you're good. But you can always just go ahead and do a single smite on a target, and you're gonna have advantage on it. So yeah, it comes pretty crazy. You see there the force damage from our gloves extra, really nice. And then I'm gonna finish off this target here. Oh, didn't actually finish them off. That's okay. Since I used up my bonus action, I don't get to use my enraged frenzied strike, but we'll get that next turn. And here we go. We got the Greater Kashigo counter. So once that triggers, that gives us an unarmed strike. It's actually unarmed, even though it looks like you use your weapon. That's why I only did 11 damage. Sometimes you get very lucky with how the enemies will spread themselves out. Honestly, more often than not, you will. They like to go and group up like that, and that's perfect because it'll prompt you. So we didn't get enough to take out the target. We're going to use the Divine Smite. It wasn't enough. Actually, it was enough. I just wasted those. Perfect. Whatever. So yeah, we're just then going to go again. No other targets that I can hit two of at a time. That is fine. I'm just going to go ahead here and attack that one with advantage. Wasn't enough. All right. So that's the thing. 46 health left. We're going to use a level 3. Wasn't enough still, but that's okay. We were closer. We do have that bonus action Frenzied Strike, so don't forget to use that, which is nice, because it's just going to give us even further damage that we can always apply our Divine Smite on top of. So yeah, you can hypothetically Divine Smite multiple targets per turn. If you get haste, that's 9 targets per turn if you get multiple slashing flourishes off. You only get 4 Bardic Inspiration. There is the Wondrous Gloves that will give you a 5th one if you prefer. It's actually kind of nice for the extra armor class too. So you can go with that if you don't want to use the, that's actually an Act 1 item. It's pretty solid. So our last option here, we do have a slashing flourish so we can hit 2 targets with, which is kind of fun. This is going to be our best option. I'm just going to do it just to show it off. Fairy Fire on one of our targets. This could be good because it can set up our teammates to get their advantage on their attack rolls. I'm just going to roll ahead with a level 3 spell slot against this target. I want them gone. We got the critical hit off. That is what we needed, so we finished them there. And we got a couple targets here left, so we'll just go with our good old Frenzied Strike. Tavern Brawler does help on this build. The Frenzied Strikes are nice because you can use those. They do give you Frenzied Strain, which adds a penalty to attack rolls every time, so that, yeah, that becomes a little challenging. It goes away if you end your Frenzy here, so that's something to keep in mind, but I can't approach this target here, unfortunately. It'll get me mind broken, so it's always nice to have some arrows ready, especially arrows of humanoid slaying if they get out of the way, because you can then just blast away. That did like no damage at all. They saved on it, so yeah. I didn't put the Titan string bow on, but that was more than enough with a few arrows to finish that off. So there it is. That is the best dialogue. If you want to maximize dialogue and still be extremely powerful in combat, this is the build to do it with. If you're not raging, you do have access to spells, but raging is very defensive. It's pretty strong. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next one.